All right, welcome. And here today, I'm very, very, very happy to welcome my dear friend, my brother, Udo Erasmus. Udo is well known as a humanist, but he's as well as a pioneer in nutrition. He's the man behind Udo's Oil. It would just be called oil without Udo if it was. So Udo's Oil is known well around the world, and he's lectured all over the world. He's spoken around the world talking about nutrition. But for today, we are going to delve into nutrition. We are going to talk about the health and healing of the body, because we all have some ailment or another that needs help. And he's certainly a person who knows a lot about it. But he also knows what to talk about the ailments that face us on the inside. And these days, the world is going through a tough time, and it has gone through a tough time. And bearing that in mind, you were born in tough times, Udo. So with that, I'd like you to just give a bit of insight about where you come from, your history, your family's history, and we'll take it from there.
Well, thanks for having me on. And
thank you. It's a pleasure. And my number one, my first guest.
All right.
So Udo, right there.
All right.
Number one with the bullet.
Start off on a good
there we go.
note.
Okay.
So I was born in 1942.
Yes.
So I'm 81.
Yeah.
And I was born on a farm in Poland, which was at that time Germany.
Yes.
And that came out of Hitler and Stalin making a non-aggression pact in 1938, I think it was.
Yes.
And what they said was, we're not going to fight each other. Of course, they broke that pact pretty quick after that, a few years after that.
Yeah.
But in order to sign it, Latvia, which is where my father and mother lived, on a farm. They had a farm in Latvia.
Yeah.
Latvia was given to the Soviet Union, and a part of Poland was given to Germany. But there was nobody from Latvia or Poland
Germany
at the meeting.
They
just took it.
That sounds familiar. That's how world politics works.
They just took it. They just took it. So my father loved the Russians because they're very emotion-like feeling people.
Yes.
Loved them. Hated communism because everything got taken away under communism. Everything became state-owned, and you were then basically a serf to the government. And so he made the decision to go to Poland, which was then part of Germany.
Yes.
And he was given a farm to replace the farm that he lost in Latvia.
Okay, so like a partition, so that they gave him reciprocal land. I
don't know how they worked it out. But anyway, so he ended up running the farm, and the farmer who owned the farm, the Polish person who owned the farm, became his farmhand.
Oh, wow.
And that was obviously, there'd be a little tension there.
There would be, yeah.
So he said, look, we live in crazy times.
Yes.
Let's just run the farm the way the farm is best run. And when all of this craziness settles out, then we'll sort it out. And they became really good friends.
Yes. So when you were born, I remember you telling me that you're on your birth document. It was issued by the German authority, and it's got a swastika on it.
Correct.
So
even though my father was Latvian, my background is German Swedish.
Yes.
So so because I was part of Germany, and I didn't get to decide what my birth certificate should look like.
No one gets to decide what happens. But it's interesting. So that you see that, and how mighty empires of it was the Third Reich, and then all of a sudden. Yeah. It's nowhere now.
Yeah, and then at the end of the war, so this is like in winter, I was 2.5 years old.
Yeah.
That's when the war ended and everybody was fleeing from everywhere, getting the hell out of wherever they were.
Yes.
And the farmer helped us to get out, and we were on dirt roads in horse-drawn hay wagons, mostly women with young children.
Yes.
And there were dead horses and dead people in the ditches.
Huh.
And there was no military presence on those roads. And we were being chased by the communists in tanks and trucks.
My God.
And the Allies, which we like to think of as the good guys, were shooting at us from planes. So they were using the refugees as target practice.
My God.
And my mother had 6 kids under 6 with her. She couldn't handle it. She decided to get off the roads and walk through the snow-covered fields. Yes. Because that was safer than being on the road. Because that's where all the shooting was going.
That's where the target was.
And she had to leave 4 kids behind. 2 of her own and 2 that she had been trying to help.
Yes.
So I got left behind. I ended up in an orphanage. Eventually, her sister found out about what had happened, and she basically went back there and found us and reunited us with the family. And I don't remember a lot. I remember hunger. I remember confusion, like didn't know what you could trust, and I never felt safe.
Yeah,
because there was a lot of noise and everybody, screaming, people screaming, and so I remember that. And I grew up very withdrawn, sort of like. So
you grew up with that trauma within you,
and I ended up loving the world of books because books are safe. So you can read about a war, but there aren't any real bullets.
There are no bullets flying past you. Yeah.
And so I got into that. And then we were in Germany. We made it out into Germany. Mm-hmm. And then in Germany, we lived on a farm. Now, my father was the farmhand on that farm. Yeah. And I remember adults arguing about like things that I thought at 6 years old were really trivial. So it must have been like really, really, really trivial stuff. Mm-hmm. And it always made me uneasy because they would get so intense about it.
Yes.
And so one day when I was watching another one of these arguments, it's like, this thought came. It's like, there must be a way that people can live in harmony. And this little cocky voice of a 6-year-old who doesn't know how complicated everything is, I'm going to find out how.
At 6.
And that's been my driver all my life.
Yeah.
So then when I got older, I was always experimenting with things because I was trying to understand how things work, because when you know how things work, you have some predictability, and that gives you some security.
Yes.
So that's what science does, predict and control, right? So I got into science to figure out how things work.
Yes.
And then I got into biological sciences, how creatures work.
Right.
And then I got into psychology, how thinking works. Then I got into medicine. But it only lasted a year because I thought it was healthcare. That's what it's called.
Yes.
But they only talked about diseases.
Correct.
And so I went to the dean and I said to him, I came here to study health. What is health? Yes. He said, we don't know. We're working on it.
But in the meantime, take this pill.
And then we were told as well in first year medicine, a doctor should always sound as though he knows what's going on, even when he doesn't.
When he doesn't.
On the farm, we call that lying.
Yeah, and here we call it politics. Yeah.
How do you know a politician or a lawyer is lying? Well, his lips are moving. Kind of like that. Yeah.
Ain't that the
and
truth?
So, but I couldn't see myself lying to people.
No.
Making a living that way, and so I left medicine, went back into biological sciences, biochemistry, and genetics.
Yeah.
And that's where I ended up. And then there was still something missing that I never got in any of my studies.
Yes.
That I was looking for, and I didn't know what it was, and my heart always ached.
You felt a void. You felt
From
something was
when
missing.
I was 17, that started. That was at the beginning of my university days.
So that yearning was there.
And it's like uncomfortable, restless, painful, confusing, and it was like, I don't know what that is. There was nothing wrong with my ticker.
Yeah.
Right? Because I was 17. We grew up on a farm, and I was pretty strong, right?
Yeah.
I couldn't shake it. I couldn't find any distraction for it. And people told me, well, don't think about it. It'll drive you crazy. Or can't you just get a job like your brother?
Right.
And I couldn't shake it. And it was like, so every day it was there. And I was always looking for what is this, and how do I deal with it? And I never got an answer to that in any of my university classes. So eventually I left university.
And where did you go to university?
University of British Columbia in Vancouver.
And who were some of your classmates around that time?
Oh, I don't remember any of the classmates. I was not super social. I was very shy.
You were inside. But I guess your professor. Your professor was pretty noted.
I don't really want to talk about that. There's a reason for that.
No problem.
I had good teachers. Yes. I had good teachers, but there was something missing. What I was looking for in science, and then in bioscience, and then in psychology, and then in medicine, I never got it. And I knew there was still something missing. So I left university. And then I got into psychedelics.
Yeah.
And I asked somebody, because I was in science and nobody was doing psychedelics in science. The guys in arts were doing them. So I talked to somebody in arts and I said, well, what is LSD like? And he just looked at me with just very kindly and he said, he said, if you haven't tried it, I can't explain it to you.
Yeah.
And if you have tried it, I don't need to explain it to you.
Okay.
And it was like, and so I did an LSD trip.
Yes, you bought the ticket, you took the ride.
I took the ride.
Right, yeah.
And I remember I had two guys with me. One turned into an angel and the other one turned into a devil. Just like, wait a minute, I don't even believe in that kind of stuff, but that's what happened, right?
Yes.
And then I was listening to Mozart music and I was laughing and crying. Tears were running down my cheeks. Laughing and crying in rhythm to the Mozart's music. And the reason why I was laughing, it struck me as the funniest thing ever, that all this stuff that I was so studiously trying to figure out on the outside was all inside of me. That it just struck me as so funny. And of course we mostly live looking always everything on the outside and doing our actions on the outside and never looking into what we are.
Yes.
So that didn't make it go away either. But I got some new information. It kind of blew the door off my war baby personality.
So you emerged
oh my
as
God, there's
something else.
1,000 ways I could live.
So
I never saw that before.
Everything was open to you, like an unlimited potential.
Yep, and then it was like, okay, how do you want to live? And then you have to sort out through 1,000 things to try and figure out how you actually want to live. You know, what is it that, what is it?
Yes.
And so, and then I did a few other psychedelic experiences, and I started feeling like I was getting burned out. And so I said to myself, I only get one body. I better take care of it.
Yeah.
And so I'm not going to do any psychedelics until for 2 years, just to give my body a chance to recover.
Get your equilibrium back. Yeah.
And then so I did that because they're not addicting. Psychedelics are not addicting. So saying no is not a problem, right? It was just a decision. And while I was doing that, I decided, I was kind of looking around. How do I want to live? Okay, who would I model myself after? Like if I had to look, my parents were not my model. They were shell-shocked from the war.
Yeah.
And I was looking for a model, and then I got into with the scientists, but I found that they weren't good models. I didn't like I think I had some pretty high standards.
Right.
I'm not sure where they came from. Maybe they're built into life. I don't know. But anyway, the scientists were not models for me. They were just as crazy as everybody else.
Yes. Nobody knows anything, really. This is one thing I've learned. You meet people, you meet these professionals, and you think they're these great founts of wisdom, but they don't know as much as anything as the next person.
As they say in Britain, they're just muddling through.
They're muddling through, and aren't we all?
Yeah. And so then I started looking and said, the one thing that I always liked, Socrates made some sense.
Yeah.
His know thyself. He didn't say know everything except thyself. He said, no, know thyself.
Know thyself. Yeah.
That sounded to me, the unexamined life is not worth living.
Correct.
That sounded nice to me.
Yes, it does.
And then Buddha, Krishna, I don't think I had that much familiarity with them yet, but Buddha a little bit.
Yeah.
And then, of course, my culture, Christian culture.
Yes.
Jesus.
Yeah.
And so I started reading the New Testament. There's a version of the Bible that has everything Jesus says in red ink, and everything else is printed in black ink. And so I wanted to see what did he have to say. I wanted to just get right to the source of it.
Right.
I wanted to know what he had to say.
Yeah.
And so I started looking at that, and there's some good stuff in there. And one of the ones that really got to me was, he says, what you have done to one of the least of these, and the least of these, that could be you, that could be a homeless person, or that could be the guy who's our techie here, could be anybody. What you have done to one of the least of these, that you have done to me.
Yes.
And I started thinking about this. Well, what does that mean? And I didn't want somebody else to interpret it for me. What does it mean to me? How do I understand that? So the way I understood it is, I am in everyone.
Yes.
Oh my God. If I am in everyone, then
Everyone is
however
in
you
you.
treat anyone,
Yes.
that's how you're treating the master.
Yes. Well, and that reflects in the golden rule. Treat someone as you would like to be treated.
Yep.
And I also believe, there's no coincidence. There's no coincidence why we're here, why this gentleman's here, while everyone's out here looking at us. Here we are.
Yeah.
And we're here for a reason. And we have to uncover that reason. And that's the examining of the life.
And that's what I was trying to do. And using that as Christ as a model.
Yes.
Because of all the people I could think of that I had any access to, that I had any experience around, that seemed to be like, this is the best one. And so then I was following it and putting little things he said to the test, and had some amazingly magical experiences. And then this group of Christians came up the West Coast from California to Vancouver, and they called themselves the Jesus People's Army.
Oh, wow.
Well, that should have been a warning to me, because army was not
It wasn't exactly a very Christly thing to...
it was not a Christly thing for me.
Right.
Because I came out of the war, right?
Yes.
I totally missed the cue. So I got in my head, said, well, these guys must be trying to figure out what I'm trying to figure out. They've probably done some experiments like I have.
Yes.
They've probably had some experiences like I've had.
Yeah.
And we're all going to get together and we're going to share our stories of discovery. And we're all going to leave the evening enriched.
Yes.
That's what I thought.
Yes.
And so they had a coffee house. They invited us. I went into the coffee house. I sat down at a table. This other guy came and swooped in right beside me. I mean, just like that.
New fish.
That should have been my second warning. And I missed that cue too.
Yeah.
And so I just looked at him, looked him in the eye, didn't introduce myself, just looked him in the eye and said, it must be possible to see God and live. Because we were told when I was a kid, if you see God, he kills you. And I was like, well, how's that? Wait a minute. He loves me on condition. He created me. He's my father. But
don't look at him. He'll kill you.
And all of that. And he allows me to breathe when I'm sleeping, and he wakes me up in the morning, right?
Yeah.
And then, and so this is all beautiful. Like, takes perfect care of me, and then I look at him and he kills me. It's like, no,
it doesn't quite match.
It's like, does not compute, right?
Yeah.
Well, so he had a different idea.
It was a cult. It basically, long and short of it was that group.
No, we were not there yet.
Okay.
So this guy, I said that, right? And so this would be a good opener for a deep conversation. Well, he apparently, this is when I got the cue and noticed it. He jumped out of his chair and he was jumping up and down with his arms wildly flailing around, and yelled at the top of his voice, "You're from the devil! You're from the Antichrist! Get out!"
Oh, Lord, you were cast out?
Holy smokes.
Wow.
So now I go slinking out of there, and I'm standing on the sidewalk in the dark.
Yeah.
And say, well, let's see. I haven't seen God, so maybe I shouldn't have asked that question. And I got really confused. I got really confused. I was really desperate. And in desperation is a really good thing because it makes you sincere.
Yeah.
I really wanted to know. And so I hitchhiked to west coast of Vancouver Island, decided to clear my head in nature, because that's what I used to do in those days.
Yes.
When things got too wild, I would just go and clear my head in nature. So I'm on the beach. There's like nobody on the beach. Big, long, sandy beach. And somebody had made a little dwelling out of plastic draped over logs.
Yeah.
Oh, here's my hotel for the weekend.
There you go.
And I crawled into this place. You couldn't stand up in it. It was just like a sleeping place. No rain, no.
The canopy of trees above you.
But there was no rain anyway. Right. But I fell asleep, and in the middle of the night, I woke bolt upright from dead asleep, and there was this being made of light. Standing on a cloud made of light. The being was brighter than the cloud.
Yes.
I couldn't tell if it was male or female, and I couldn't tell whether it was old or young.
Yeah.
But human, and there were no words, no labels, no conversation, but it embodied a message. And so I should back off for a second, because one of my big questions was, I want to feel what Jesus felt.
Yes.
That made him live like he did, talk like he did, do what he did. I want to have that feeling. I don't want to be Jesus. I don't want a religion named after me, but I want to know what's the experience.
Yes.
That seemed like an important thing.
The sublime.
Yeah. So here was this being embodying a message. And I could put words to the message, and the words are, I am come not to judge, but to love. And then, I am come not to judge, but to love. Pure. And my confusion and my desperation evaporated instantly. I have never had a question about what was the central message of the master to humanity, that master to humanity.
Yes.
And probably all the other very wise people have similar messages to humanity. And what I learned later, then I started thinking about it. Well, who was that? Well, was that Christ? Because Christ was what I was sort of chasing, right? Wasn't an angel because there were no wings. I mean, this is just how my interpretation.
It was light. Yeah.
And then it was like, well, is this Christ, or is this spirit, or is this life? And it turns out they're all the same. Oh, but that took me a while to figure out. So life, the message of the master to humanity, is the same message that life has for the body. I am come not to judge, but to love. We are unconditionally loved 24/7, 365 by life energy.
So, so with that in mind, so here we are, we're not to judge, but to love.
Yeah.
To see the light that is all around us, that's within us and within all of humanity.
Yeah.
And that's a beautiful message. It's something that, gives inspiration, hope, and a greater sense of well-being, connectedness to all things. It's great. But here we are, tail end of 2023, going to 2024. And, for the most part, it's like the world's going to hell in a handbasket in a lot of ways. And, you've got people who are dying in the worst possible deaths, and we're seeing it all stream out in real time. Yeah. We're seeing little kids die, we're seeing babies die, we're seeing mass starvation, we're seeing politics where people are, saying one thing from here, but really talking out the other end, and it's baffling. It creates fear, anger, mistrust. But I see very little in the way of light emerging from this. What's your take on it?
Yeah, well, so in a way, I have to continue the story, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So what I eventually realized, what is life? Yes. Well, first of all, life has unconditional, empowering love for your body, 24/7, 365. No matter what's going on in your head, and no matter what's going on in your perception of the outside world, something in you is taking perfect care of your body. And in fact, I complained about the war I was born in till I was 26.
Yeah, well, the same war that you're going in, the same stories, they're being played out right now.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So I was complaining, and one day I realized, oh my God, through all this time, all my dramas and all my traumas, this life has taken perfect care of me. I've never given it any acknowledgement. I've never said thank you. I've never said, gee, I'd actually like to get to know my life a little better because it's been awfully good to me. This would be a really good friend to have, right? Yeah. I had never done that. But that was part of the turnaround. So in this time, after this experience, which kind of like I have never had a question about what was the essential message of the masters to humanity. And they always said, kingdom of heaven is within you. Seek first the kingdom within you. Yes. They didn't say it quite like that, but seek first the kingdom, and then everything else will start to fall into place, right? Everything else will be added unto you, right? Yes. So, of course, we don't do that. We put it last. We go out in the world and just look at everything, and we try everything. And when we run out of options, that's when we begin to look for a deeper answer inside. That's pretty much the story of humanity. Yeah. It's also the story of the individual, because when you were conceived, it was an immaculate conception, because conception is immaculate. Nature is immaculate, right? And when you were in your mother's womb, there was no place to go.
No.
And there was nothing to do. And everything was taken care of.
Yeah.
And it was pretty safe. So you didn't know that you had a mother, because she was around you.
She was around you. Yeah.
You didn't know
that
there was
the
a
environment
world.
you were in. Yeah.
You had no language.
Yeah.
You just peed when you needed to. So you're basically in the womb. You're in amniotic fluid plus baby urine or fetal urine, basically.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah.
And all just being. But no big deal.
Yes.
You don't even have to breathe. Yeah. You don't have to eat.
Yeah.
You don't have to look for, where am I going to get my next meal from?
No.
So in that kind of a situation, where is your focus? Well, it's not out there. You got no language. You got no world. You got no mother, right? So where is it? Your focus is at rest inside, in its source, in life, in the core of your being.
Yes.
And what is in the core of that being? Oh, well, the core is peace, is content, is calmness, is oneness, is wholeness. And then within that wholeness, there's the fire of life. What is that fire? We called it Christ before, but let's go back. What is that fire? Well, that fire, the sun shines on the earth, and it's filtered through 93 million miles of space, then filtered through the Earth's atmosphere, then filtered through green plants, and the fraction of solar energy that remains is stored in bonds between atoms to make molecules. And then when we eat those molecules as food in our cells, those bonds get broken, that energy is released. Now we call it life. Okay, and that life energy is a fraction of solar energy, so we are solar energy gadgets. And so is every plant, and so is every animal, pretty much, and so is just about every microbe, right? All run on solar energy, right?
Yes.
And and then we've got solar energy is life energy. And then when you bring your focus back inside to where it was before you were born, out of your head into the space your body occupies, there is your master energy. That life that is master of your body, runs everything, right? Weighs nothing, loves you unconditionally and empowers you, right? That is the energy that the masters were in touch with. They spoke from that to that in people. And the people who liked the message and said, hey, I want to pursue this, well, they helped them, encouraged them, enlightened them, maybe helped them do some kind of a stillness practice. Because in order to get to know yourself, like self-knowledge or self-observation, you have to sit down in a safe place, get really quiet, see how still you can become, see how deep you can go into that stillness, see how long you can stay there. And maybe you can breathe calmly and slowly, without interruption, just quietly, relaxed. And in that space, what do you notice? You might see light in your darkness. You might hear sound in your silence. You might feel love in your emptiness. You might taste sweetness in the blandness.
Yeah,
that's inside of us. Something is inside of us. What does it feel like to be alive? What does it feel like to bring your focus into the energy that keeps you alive?
Yes. So you're tapping into the collectiveness, the collective consciousness, the unconscious that we're all a part of.
Well, you want to make that unconscious conscious.
Yes.
But the other thing
is...
The
awakening of it all.
But the other thing of that is, and this is, I think, really important, that energy, that life, that Christ, that master, whatever you call that, is the leader of your body. It runs the show, it's the master, it's also the leader. And if we want peace and love and harmony on this planet, then there's only one way to get there, which is individuals bring their focus inside and listen to the same leader in them, because we are actually all following the same leader, the solar energy fraction that is called life.
Yes.
And that's what we're not doing. So what happens? When we're born, we get kicked out of that beautiful place where everything's taken care of, right? Yeah, no,
What is it? What's the first thing you do? You start crying.
I want to get back.
Get me out of here.
Yeah, and then what happens? You got to cry for your diaper change, and you got to cry for your breast milk, and you got to cry for your this and that, and then you learn language, and then you have to try and figure out how things work, because now you're in survival mode. And you have to figure out every time something changes, your awareness, your focus is drawn out through your senses into that change, because you have to assess it. Is this friend? Is this foe?
Yeah.
Or is it irrelevant? And all the time something's changing in the outside world. So all the time you're just like, no, it's just like from emergency to emergency. From emergency is just what emerges, right?
Yes.
And always because something's always changing on the outside. It's just the world of change. There was an inner world of no change, and there's an external world of interaction and constant change. And in that process, we went from being present inside in our focus and absent outside before birth. Yeah. And then gradually, as we're born, we get more and more present outside in the world of surfaces of things, and less connected on the inside.
Yes.
And the disconnection from our being in getting to know the world. Some people call it gain the world, lose your soul. Interesting. We actually get disconnected from ourselves. With that comes discontent. And discontent, and this disconnection is the source of heartache.
It is. Well, that's
heartache. There's lots of words for it.
You do. It's a disconnect, but also even so, a lot of people seek to disassociate themselves. That's what the real rage now is. Are drugs that can put you in a disassociative state.
Well, So then our heart aches. And that was what I was feeling when I was 17, and I could never get an answer to at that point, right? And so, and then what we do is then we look in the outside world, what can I do that'll get me feeling okay? And then we come up with ideas. Oh, if I have this, whatever it is, get the girl or get the $1 million or get the project done or whatever. When I succeed in doing this project, there's always the hope I will feel whole again. And it never happens.
It never happens.
Because you get successful if you do. And you get 3 days where you say, "Yay! I did it!"
And then what?
And on day four, what? This is I've talked to billionaires, like people who are very, 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 very successful.
Yes.
And they say, and I said, well, then you feel depressed. He said, well, I wouldn't say depressed. I would say let down. Well, it's the same, right? And why is that? Because you hoped something on the outside would reconnect you on the inside, but nobody spells that out to you like that. Yeah. And so you got it done. You had your 3 days, and it's like, it didn't do it. Well, maybe I wasn't thinking big enough. Well, maybe I was thinking the wrong way. Yeah. So then you try to figure out some other thing to do it, to get it. Yes. And it doesn't work. So I couldn't shake it. I was always, and then I was doing my, I got this huge blast of, I am come not to judge, but to love.
Yes.
And then gradually that became a memory. And I was like, no, I want to live in that experience that I had, because that was profound. That was beautiful. It was profound. And then trying to understand how I could stay in it. I couldn't figure it out. And eventually I said to somebody, I know there's a perfection within me. I know I'm not connected to it. And I need to find someone who can show me a step because I haven't been able to figure it out for myself.
So you were directed.
And the next day I heard about a guy. He was 14 years old.
Yes.
And just what they said. It was just, I was in a radio. I was living in the mountains by that time because I couldn't stand the city anymore. Yeah. And I didn't I said there's no life in it, forgetting that I was the life and the other people were the life, and we have a lot of trees here and all that. Yeah. But I just
You just wanted to get away from it.
And then I was in the mountains, and in the mountains within a week I say, oh shit.
And now what?
No, it was like, oh shit. What I don't like in the city is up here in the mountains with me.
Yes. Yes.
Oh shit!
It follows you.
It's my attitude.
Yes.
And then it was like, well, I don't even know where to start to figure out how I develop the attitude and how to dismantle it and develop a better attitude. And that's like, oh my God, I know there's something. I know I'm not connected. I need to find somebody. So then I listened to this guy. I thought, what's a 14-year going to teach me? I was 30 by that time. So I've been around.
You've been around.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff, right? Yeah. But then he said, I heard him when he was talking. I actually went there and spent a couple of days there. I remember he talked for probably 2 hours. I just remember one sentence. He said, the peace you search for in the world is within you, and I can reveal you that peace.
Yes.
And that's the only thing I remember from 2 hours of talk. That's the only thing. That was like, boom.
The original message came back to you in a different form.
Yeah. Yeah. Then I thought, well, I doubt if he can because I'm he's 14, I'm 30, and I've been around, and But I'm interested in peace because I came out of the war, right. And any possibility of anything that could actually be peace, I don't want to miss it. No. So I'm going to check him out, and if he can show me, then I'll be grateful, and if he can't show me, I'll just keep looking. Yes, because I'm looking, right.
Yeah, we're seekers.
So then I heard more like why it's important for human beings to actually spend time in stillness, bringing your focus back inside where it used to be before they were born. Yeah. They didn't say it that way. That's just my explanation now, right? And so, but they put it in context. Why is it important for human beings to do some kind of a stillness practice, meditation or mindfulness or whatever it is? Why is that important? Because trees, they're like little Buddhas. They just hang out in their space and they never go anywhere out of their space. Yes. And dogs, they'll go out of their space to chase something in the environment, but then they go back inside their body. And human beings are unique among creatures that they go out and then they go in their head instead of going back in their body. And that's why we need to spend time sitting down where we go into the space our body occupies and out of our thinking mind. Yeah. Okay? And the heart is 100% for us, and the mind is 50% for us and 50% against us. Judgment here, love here. Right? So practice. It turned out that he showed us a method, and I started practicing the method. I thought it was too simple because the idea for me was, well, it took us a long time to get to the moon, but we finally made it, and it was really complicated. Yeah. Well, we haven't made it to peace yet, so peace must be even more complicated than going to the moon.
Or simpler than we think.
Yeah. Well, it turns out that not to be true, but that's the way I was thinking.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. And so then I said, okay, well, I'll give it 6 months because he said give it a fair chance. Yes. And I noticed that if I did, and he said spend an hour quiet,
Yes.
I couldn't even sit still for 5 or 10 minutes. More than that, I couldn't sit still.
What do they call it? The monkey mind.
Yeah.
The mind is going. There's
And
always
literally,
something.
I mean, it was going nuts.
Yeah.
So I get it.
And you didn't even have smartphones then.
No. You don't need smartphones. The monkey's in the head. It's not in the phone.
It was still chirping away. Yeah.
So I would get into these arguments.
Yes.
And it's really get into and it was like. Just like so frustrated. I was like, I was going to hit somebody, or I had to leave. So I'd leave. I'd go and sit in the woods on a log, 5 minutes, 10 minutes of just, and then I'd look at it and say, wow, we argued about that. How trivial.
Yeah.
Just like those people did in Germany, when I was 6, right?
Yeah.
I was doing exactly the same thing, and I'm 30, right?
Yeah.
And I realized that if I did the practice beforehand, if I took the time to be still, and I'd get settled inside, and I get more content and I'm more peaceful, I wouldn't rise to the bait. So it was like, oh my God, this works. So I've been doing that now for 51 years.
Look at that.
Every day.
Yeah.
And the insights that come from the quiet place inside, unbelievable. Unbelievable how beautiful it is. Now, if I was the boss of 8 billion people on this planet.
Well, here you are. This is your time. Give some direction.
I'm doing it.
You're on.
Every human being,
yes,
if they want peace in their life,
yes,
and contentment, and feel loved, need to find that inside, and then they can bring it to expression outside. That's where the harmony comes from. So it begins by taking the time to discovering how magnificent you are as a human being. Because you're just dust, water, and a little gas.
Yeah, pretty much.
And put together by a genetic program run by solar energy, right? And you can laugh and you can sing and you can be happy and you can be sad and you can have babies and you can care and you can fight and you can do all those things that you can do just because of how dust, water, and air
how it all comes
got
together.
Organized into this.
Yes.
And when you discover the magnificence and the awesomeness of your own existence, you will want to spend some time appreciating and enjoying that. And the time you sit still is time you're not fighting.
Yes.
Right? And here's the thing. This same thing is in both sides of every argument.
It is.
And both sides need to find that peace if they're ever going to have peace.
I agree.
And there's and it's not peace that's a ceasefire. We call peace when the shooting stops. That's not peace, that's a ceasefire. I'm talking about peace that you feel, that you experience, that is the foundation or the container of your being. And that peace you have to go inside for. In the core of your being is where your access is. And when you access that in the core of your being, you discover it's not limited to your body. That peace, it fills the universe. There is peace everywhere, including on the battlefield. And on the battlefield, there's peace in the warriors, between the warriors, around the warriors, above them, below them. That entire battlefield has peace everywhere, except their focus. You're my enemy, I'm going to kill you. You're my enemy, I'm going to kill you. So they're not if they practiced peace on the battlefield, they would put down their weapon and say, how can we help each other live better?
Right. And that's really what needs to happen. Like right now, it's been such a horrifying set of circumstances that we're facing, and it's ongoing. It's still going. It hasn't stopped. And it's going to be in Christmas in Bethlehem and around the world in a few days.
Yeah.
Since we're talking here now, and it's not going to be a very merry one. We all go through the appearances of life is just going on as normal, and turning a knob, we can change the frequency and not change the channel, but there's still. There's no peace.
And then you have a choice that you can make.
Yes, you can.
If you realize that what you're looking for is inside of you, then you have a choice. Are you going to react to everything that comes at you from the outside? Or are you going to cultivate and then bring to expression in your actions, in your sphere of influence?
Correct.
The calmness, the contentment. And by the way, when I feel content and cared for, then I look around and say, okay, what do I need to do? There was a time when it was like, what can I do that'll get me taken care of? And there were certain things that needed to be done I wouldn't do because I couldn't see how they would take care of me.
Yes.
Now, I feel content. I feel cared for. If I don't, I know where to go because that lives within me.
Yes.
So I know how to go there. And I've practiced it for a long time, so I'm getting pretty good at it.
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
And because I can go there, I can actually become an influence in that direction in the world.
And that's what we want.
Right.
You know, like I think you see your voice and other voices coming together really shows how similar we all are.
Yeah.
Like there may be divergent points of view, different opinions.
Yeah, and I'm talking biology. This is not religion.
Sure,
this is not culture. This is not race. This is biology.
Yes.
In every human
It's
being.
remarkably the same.
In every human being.
In every human being.
We're all children of the sun, like the tribes used to worship the sun, right?
Yeah.
Or the warriors of the rainbow.
Yeah.
These are strong people who don't beat each other up.
Yes.
Right? But they're strong. They're strong in their conviction. They're strong in holding the space of peace and of contentment and of love and of inspiration.
Yeah.
So now it's just like, it's like when I feel cared for, it's nothing left to do to get myself taken care of. I'm taken care of.
Yeah.
It's not about me anymore. Now it's like, okay, where can I help? What needs to be done?
Yes.
How can I make the biggest splash for good that's possible in the time that I have, which is pretty short.
Yeah, and this is what I've learned. I've known you for a long time, and I think one of the big things is you're very open to sharing. You're sharing the gift of your knowledge, your history, where you come from, how you can show your experience and how that applies to the living experience that's going on right now. It's called context. You know, and there's a wisdom there.
Yeah.
And part of that is sharing those ideas and giving gifts to one another as you've done for me. And I do have something here for you because you've given me books and I've long promised you this. So
yes, you have.
This is the Clear Quran. It's an English translation, and so I wanted to present this to you.
Cool.
And like any religious book, you get what you put into it. So
I will adopt every wisdom I find in it. I will
exactly, and you've shown me the same with the other books you've given me, and what you've shared with me in your own writings. And you're really one of the inspirations why I'm doing this here. And that just go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
Right, like when you begin, there's magic in it, and so with that magic and with that beautiful intention,
all right,
just to you.
Thank you.
So you're welcome.
Thank you.
So
I've been waiting for a long time for this because I've asked a few people.
That's right.
But I need a good English translation.
That's a good one. If anybody wants one, I'm very happy to get a copy of it.
It even
free of charge. Anytime, contact me. There'll be a link in the below, and free copy anywhere, anytime.
It even says the Clear Quran.
It's clear. You got it. You got
clear
it.
is good.
That's right. And while that's my background, one thing I've realized that when we've had our interfaith events, we've had our indigenous folks, we've had our Jewish, Christian, Muslim, Sikh, Hindu, you name it, and our pagan friends. The fundamentals are the same.
Human being.
We're all human beings.
It's all about the biology.
The biology.
What is life
indeed.
Biology means the study of life.
Yes, it is.
Right?
Yes,
it's on that level.
Exactly.
That we're all brothers and sisters.
Exactly. So, well, brother, it's always a pleasure, and cool. I thank you for joining us on our inaugural podcast, and we'll do. There'll be more to come, and more programs for more people to come together, share their views, have a safe space to do so, and be able to. Push if there's anything worth fighting for. It's peace.
Except you can't fight for peace.
Yes, well, this is this is using that energy. The energy.
When a politician says I'm fighting for security, I go, wait. I will start feeling secure when you stop fighting, right? And I came out of I know what insecurity is.
Exactly.
Right? Don't fight for my security.
Yeah.
Just find your peace.
Exactly.
You as a leader.
So let's find
you
that.
As
let's
a leader
find that together.
Need that more than anybody else.
Whether it's the blind leading the blinder, it's we're going to find our way there. With that will and
the peace that in the world will not come through those institutions.
That's right.
100%.
Yeah.
Not the religious institutions and not the political institutions and not the cultural institutions. It is an individual effort. I call it the homework, the work you do at home within yourself.
Yes.
And you know what? That is possible for every human on the planet. Oh my God.
There we go.
Every human on the planet.
All right.
And that's what I'm going to spend the rest of my time on this planet talking about and exploring, and and I'm a work in progress because
Are we all?
The deeper I go, they say, man, I've never seen the bottom of how good this gets, and it gets better and better.
I'll be right there with you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. And I have a book for you.
Okay.
But I didn't bring it because you
That's
didn't.
All right.
That's right. You got ahead of me
When
here.
we get there, I'll get it from you.
All right.
No problem.
All right. Cool.
Thank you.
It's called Hear Yourself.
Okay.
How to Find Peace in a Noisy World.
I look forward to it. All right.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.